Good morning, Ma. Good morning, Baba. Good morning, Auntie Kemi. Good morning, Mr. Dayo Kusam. Thank you for being part of today's webinar. Good morning, Lenestic Chris Uche SN. I can see you in the audience. Good morning to everyone that is part of today's webinar. Today, in another session of our webinar series, we're taking a look at a very important topic that's at the heart of every lawyer in Nigeria. We have assembled a star-studded panel, and I'm really grateful to Baba Alokularo, managing partner of the new practice, Mr. Dayo Okusami, who will be partner Templars, who will be standing in for Mr. Ogogo Akpata, managing partner of the law firm Templars. We thank Mrs. Joy Harrison Abiola, who is a manager of high reputation, and the managing partner of, the practice manager of the law firm Adekwetu Matuzago and Shegun, now known as ACAS Law. We thank you very much for being here today, man. I also thank our very good sister, Mrs. Kemi Ajayi, who is the first chief operating officer of a law firm in Nigeria and the current chief operating officer of the law firm Bao and Igodalo. We thank you all for being part of today's webinar. One of the key issues that has been affecting law firms in Nigeria include the issue of management and succession planning, also issue of financing of modern law firms in Nigeria, working with the millennials. There are lots of challenges that the COVID-19 and 2020 pandemic has brought to our lives, and this has changed the way businesses are done all over the world. And it has also, it's having lots of impact on the legal profession as well. Today, we're looking at this topic, running a law firm as a business. And what part of what we're looking at today, as our speakers are going to be sharing with us, include issue of how to run a successful law firm, working with non-lawyer managers in the law firm. While the lawyers handle the legal part of their work, there are specialists who are trained to actually provide management services to support the work of the lawyers. Are lawyers really good managers? Are we really running successful businesses as lawyers? Are we getting the best out of our law firm business? Or are we being shortchanged by the competition that are coming from different sides, from the new law to the international law firms who are also operating within our space? I thank you all for being part of today's webinar, and I'll now hand over to our moderator for today, Mr. Dayo Okusami. Mr. Dayo Okusami is a partner in the law firm Templars. We have reached 100 participants now, and all other people will be able to participate in this webinar on Facebook Live. We limited people who will participate on the Zoom platform to 100, so we can have more people join through the Facebook page. Thank you very much for being part of today. This webinar has been made possible by our sponsors. We're grateful to the law firm Alex. We're also grateful to Advocates Law Practice, GLS and Co, and Bloomfield Law Practice. We thank you all for supporting this initiative. We have this every Monday and Wednesday at 1 p.m. and every Friday at 11 a.m. And this will run all year. So every week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, do join us for a webinar on interesting topics that bother on the business of practicing law. Thank you very much. So I'll hand over to Mr. Dayo Kusami. We'll take it from here.
Thank you very much, Larry. To answer first question that I've seen, the intention is to keep this to an hour and a half at maximum. So you're going to hear from all our panelists. We'll do question and answers both in between and afterwards. Ladies and gentlemen, thank all 100 of you for attending. I would also like to thank our panelists, Baba, Joy, and Kemi. I think this is a very topical issue because as we go to law firms and we're trying to corporatize the law practice, over the past 20 years that I have been practicing, I have seen an evolution in how firms are both run, developed, and Larry said something important, succession planning. But to be part of that as well, it needs to be run as a business. Some of us that are slightly longer in the tooth would remember that a law firm was, at least in the Nigerian context, was very much a family business that was held on for other family members. And that is not to say that you did not have other law firms that had some form of corporate organization, but it wasn't as widespread as you see now. However, as we evolve as a legal practice in Nigeria, not saying they've got all the answers. If we look at law firms internationally, there are lessons that we can learn without just importing everything in. So without further ado, first of all, thank you to ESQ for putting this together. Thank you to our sponsors who have been mentioned. Most importantly, thank you to our panelists who have been making time to kind of give us their thoughts and direction to enable this kind of conversation. To start it off, we've got Joy Harrison Abiola from ACAS. She's got a very interesting and I think you will all find it quite detailed presentation that will help us kind of expand where we are and where we're going. After that, we'll be having Baba and then Kemi. Just a bit of housekeeping. I see someone has their hand up. Please, for now, I would request that if you have any questions, put them in the chat box. I've already typed a message there. If you see at the bottom, you'll see the chat. If you direct it to everyone as opposed to the panelists so everybody else can see that, would be grateful. What I will try and do, my voice, okay. Is this better? I hope it is, but I will be handing over to the panelists soon. Sometimes I'm told my voice is too loud, so this is the first time I've heard it's quite low. But anyway, moving along swiftly. So if you've got questions, please type them into the chat box. I will try and break it up a bit and take the questions after each panelist, so we're not just waiting to the end. And then if we've got time, we might open up the mic, but the preferred method now is please put your questions in writing in the chat box and we'll take it. Joy, if you are ready, and if the administrator can put up her presentation. So no sound. Okay. Baba, can you hear me? I heard you smiling before. Joy, can you hear me? Okay, so
I can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, good. So Joy, why don't you start? Mary, you might have to sign out and sign back in. It appears everyone else can hear me. I will go on mute now and I hand over to Joy for her presentation. Admin, who I think is Adeyemi, could you either give control to Joy or put up her presentation?
Thank you very much, Dayo. Can you hear me? Yes? Good, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I want to say thank you to Esquire. I also want to lend my voice to say a big thank you to the sponsors, and great to have Dayo moderating this, and also want to salute and pay kudos to Baba and Kemi. Am I able to share my screen, or should I just go ahead? I'm going to go off camera and try to share my screen. Running your law firm as a business. So I want to outline a few goals for this session very quickly. I believe the goals are to enable attendees appreciate the vast array of competencies required to run a truly successful law firm. Also to get partners, beyond technical knowledge, which is a given. We want to be able to get attendees, and I know that they do already, but to appreciate more the vast array of competencies required to run a truly successful law firm. or law business, if I may, to also get partners, lawyers, and managers alike to take actionable incremental steps to entrench these competencies and best practices in the day-to-day running of our law firms. I believe, and we believe really, that this will deepen our law practices and also create opportunities for the 5,000 to 6,000 lawyers that graduate from the Nigeria Law School annually, which I know is a major concern for most practitioners. Also, my goal, or our goal, is also to get partners, law firm owners, lawyers generally, to prioritize and deliberately acquire business expertise. Yes, business expertise beyond business development, and I mean, the very, very obvious ones. Also, I would dare say that our goal also is to get partners, law firm owners, to dedicate sufficient time to the business aspects of their law firms and not treat business as an appendage. I want to outline these goals because I know lawyers are very busy people, and you have that 2,400 billable hours to meet. But business is not an appendage. It's not something you roll your eyes when you have to do something that is not core legal. So we hope that that will happen. So I go straight to the content. Firstly, I will be looking at the business of law through the lens of the AM law reports. I would also look at business competencies and why is this topic a thing? Why are we talking about running your law firm as a business? Why is it a synonym? And then we would be also looking at the question, are we truly open for business? Through the lens again of the Amazon and Thomson Reuters realities, and then I'll conclude. I would go right into it. The business of law. In April 2020, and I'm a huge fan of statistics because you really can't get it wrong with statistics. It's very rare to get it wrong with statistics. In April 2020, the American Lawyer released their 33rd annual AM Law 100 report, which includes data and rankings for the nation's 100 highest grossing law firms, overall revenue. And interestingly, we had a report that says very clearly, and these statistics are carefully mined, and the report says that these 100 law firms pulled in a gross $104 billion income. And I found that very interesting. I'm actually looking forward to the next AM report coming out in April, May, because I like to see the millions. It's inspiring. So if you compare that to the 2021 budget of our nation, which is 13.6 trillion naira, that's about 35.6 billion, depending what rates you use, but that's about 3 times the income or the gross aggregate revenue for 2021 entire Nigeria. And these are staggering figures. Highlights: the law firm revenue grew by 5% in 2029. Highlights of that report also says that there was a growth of 4%. Net income grew by 4%. Profit per partner, which is a very interesting metric in evaluating the growth of a law firm, grew by 5%. And revenue per lawyer grew by 3%. 42 firms posted gross revenue over 1 billion in 2019. 42 individual firms. 86 firms reported gains in revenue and increased profit per partners. The headliners, Kirkland and Latam, they have grossed in how much? 4.1 billion in revenue up by 10.6% from 2018. 10.6% profit is huge if you're following the numbers. LATAM also rose 11.3% in total revenue, 3.7 billion revenue. I think that it will be interesting to understand the drivers for some of these figures. It will be interesting to understand the drivers, because these statistics, if you doubt if a law firm, if there's any doubt whether a business is a business or a law firm is a business, these statistics clearly clears up those doubts. And it shows clearly that law firms do record losses, can record profits. And depending on the strategies of these firms, you would find out from research that they have very good associate to partner leveraging. They have also very good business support professionals to fee and leveraging. So let's look at more statistics very quickly. I looked at Wachtel. Wachtel over a couple of years, a number of years, have always been the highest in profits in terms of profit per partner. So profit per partner total 6.3 million, Wachtel, 61% profit. Kirkland, 5.2 million, 56% profit. Pulling up another research, Clifford Chance, I checked, and this is a 3-year-old statistics. Clifford Chance's return per Fiena in 2017, I believe. Each Fiena was, the RPE was 962,000. Total income was $2.092 billion. So let us quickly look at the competencies or the drivers for some of these figures. Like I said before, if there is any doubt whether this law firm is a business, I think those doubts need to be cleared very, very quickly. But I guess the first question, a question I would ask is, why is this topic important? What is the thing about this topic? For me, it's two-pronged. One, it's important because truly law firms are indeed businesses, and we need to see it that way. And secondly, I suspect that there's still some doubt, or maybe in the subconscious of some law firm owners somewhere. I'm talking generally. We have the corporate law firms that have understood this for a while and are running with it. If there is some doubt about the fact that, law firm, we clearly know that it is a revered practice. We know that it is, how we describe lawyers as being priests in the temple of justice is a revered profession, but it is clearly a business that drives the economy of Nigeria. But I think that the reason for this topic probably is, it speaks to the fact that there is a struggle in the subconscious mind of generally of lawyers as to why and what and how of a business, the what, the why, and the how of a business. And I also think that it speaks to the general training of lawyers. Lawyers have fantastic training, but I dare say that in terms of the business, lawyers are trained to practice law and not to practice business. And they are very quick, especially when I discuss with some young lawyers to remind us about that. And so what does the training of a lawyer do generally? Lawyers are risk adverse generally, and to run a business, you have to be willing to take risk. So as a result of our training, generally, lawyers are bound by precedents, by norms. And as great as this is, it may become a burden in the business world where there is disruption. It will become a burden if you have to keep to norms all the time. Also, because of the training of a lawyer, which is very intense, lawyers tend to be very individualistic and independent. Independence is highly prized. So many law firms have flat management hierarchies. You find out that law firms that have thrived are law firms that do not operate flat management hierarchies. They have clear roles, and those and it really helps to drive business. But in some law firms, there are few role boundaries. You go in and out of boundaries. And because of the individual and independent nature of lawyers, key decisions are usually made by consensus, and consensus slows down decision making. Consensus sometimes will not be favorable for business, especially in today's environment. Another thing I see as a trend in terms of, apart from being risk adverse and keeping to conventions, it stifles innovation. It stifles innovation. I see that a lot of lawyers that have innovative ideas, especially the young ones, you know, most of the time may not be very quick to share them. So another reason why this topic is important is I believe that most law firms are short-term focused. Very few law firms can tell you their 5-10-year plan. And very short-term focus, not wanting to be bothered by the process or the details that produces the bottom line. But the devil is in the detail. Another reason why this topic is important, in my view, is that the power in law firm is generally based on client and revenue generation. Other skills usually will come a distant second. This is good, of course, if there is no BD, if there is no client generation. But a proper business will identify and would, apart from identifying, would give sufficient recognition to other competencies that form the business. Bear in mind that for law firms, there are finders, there are keepers, and there are minders. But the power in law firm is generally based on client and revenue generation. So I mean, if you turn that on its head, look at the usual normal multinationals, where how are profits generated. But I mean, that's a topic for another day. So the power in law firm is generally based on client and revenue generation. Good. I'm not saying it is bad. So several lawyer professionals maintain also a very competitive and adversarial approach, even internally. So I mean, generally that's what the training does. But internally, if you maintain a competitive and adversarial approach to the extreme, it can create a toxic environment. So you find out the multinationals, the Googles that everyone wants to work, there is a there is a conviviality that is, you know, teamwork is not too difficult in some of those environments. In general, law firm partners are owners. Again, for me, this is another issue with looking at the law firm as a business. Law firm law firm partners and owners want to be very much in control. And again, that is not bad. If I own a business, I probably would want to be very much in control. But a very good writer says if you don't lose control, you will probably not get money. Okay, so giving up control is very difficult for lawyers. I've done this like 23 years of my life. And I've seen partners struggle with giving control to we're seeing it change to giving up control. So partners, and why it's difficult to give up control is easy. Partners are both the production units. They are the majority shareholders. They are the executive directors. They are also the frontline salesperson. So they are used to be in control. But going back to my slides, I wish someone could actually help me move these slides. Okay, going back to my slides, truth of the matter is that for a business to operate, there is what is called the Polk framework. Business thrives on planning. And I mean, we are dealing high level here, so we understand what planning, organizing, leading, and controlling is. And generally, this is not something that comes easy with lawyers because of their very strong egotistic nature. Again, with all due respect. So I'm speaking really generally, but you can pick what makes sense. So in 2016, the Association of Legal Administrators did a research, and there are quite a number of Nigerian practice administrators that are members of this association, and we do have a Nigerian Practice and Managers Association. So we have a report that says after, they did this report actually twice. This is the second research that was done, the 2016 research, sampling over 1,200 lawyers, law firm owners, practice administrators, in order to understand what the competencies are, the competencies that is required to run a law firm as a business. And the result is that there are 65 competencies divided into 5 subject areas required to run a law firm. Financial management, and you'll all agree with me, IT, human resource management, operations management, strategy, and of course, trends. If you cannot read trends, that would be a bit of a problem in running your law firms. So looking at all of this, it is clear that at least getting these resources, ensuring that they are properly entrenched, is vital to running a law firm. So it has been argued that our multinationals, our prized clients, they have in time past been the ones that have driven and triggered change in law firms. But I dare say that March 2020 was interesting. Within 1 week, we experienced an amazing turnaround in our operations. So all the push for what now? For flexi work, all the argument about flexi work. Within 1 week, we discovered competencies, we discovered Zoom, we discovered Skype, we discovered technologies that had been lying fallow in our in our offices. 99.9% of lawyers started operating remotely. So all those frowning about, oh, you just came at 9:30, oh, you're just coming at 8:30. What are you telling me? Is there hold up in your area? Okay, all that was gone. And what was important was the work, you know. So what are the triggers for change in a law firm? What will make us change? And quite frankly, I love lawyers. My husband is what?
Trigger of change. Just pointing out we're 18 minutes now, just for time management purposes.
Oh my goodness.
And we want to cut off at 25 minutes.
I'm just going to run through now.
No, you've got 25 minutes, so 7 more minutes.
I'll still run. Okay, so let us mirror MNCs. Let us look at multinationals. If we want to earn what multinationals earn, what are they doing that are driving those figures? Okay, so COVID-19 was a trigger for change. I will just make some very quick statements that are factual and they are arguable. But I would say only a well-run business can be an efficient professional firm, correct? Only a well-run business can increase profit and ensure continual increase of profit. There is always a trajectory of business. There is a time when you will peak, there is a time where you would plateau, but we are in business, you know, for profit. Only a well-run business will create wealth for its people. Creating wealth for its owner is nothing, it's a given. But creating wealth for its people should be our main concern. Creating wealth even for the students that are looking for a place to start off their career. So only a well-run business will invest in its community, adequately reinvest in the business. Only a well-run business will be a going concern and an enduring entity. So running your law firm as a business for me simply means organizing your law firm for practice, or for profit rather. Reducing unnecessary expenses and also adopting new market strategies. Sometimes I feel that we do need to think outside of the box. I get very, I find bankers very interesting. There are banks that I would never have had. I've opened an account in, except for the fact that they started running feminine products. So are there demographics that we are ignoring? Are there law products for children? Are there law products for some demographics that we're ignoring? So organize your law firm for profit. Google and Amazon, for instance, I ask myself most of the time, what does these corporates have on us? They run to lawyers for solutions. And we provide solutions. Our lawyers provide fantastic solutions, but sometimes those solutions, we don't find it easy in implementing them in our law firms. And why is that? So it's a case of sometimes of do as I say to my clients, not don't do as I do. So some of these, I will just name names for the things I find in Google and Amazon. They are severely client-centric. They have several accessibility platforms. One of the things lawyers are accused of is accessibility. Accessibility in many fronts. Oh, I cannot afford your fees. Oh, I called you, I cannot see you. I couldn't find you. Oh, so, and again, they have data mastery. They have agility, and there is premium investment in employee upskilling. If you look at the budget for training before COVID, check the budget for training for all law firms, check the budget for training for Google, for Amazon, for MNCs. So I like agility because while lawyers are still debating, should we go to the market or should we not go to the market? Amazon, Google may have gone to the market 5 times over and they're back. So let's talk about a few things. I honestly need to rush. If you want to run your law firm, you need to have a vision and not just have it inside of you. Leadership is being able to sell that vision to anyone that walks through your door and they buy the vision. So you live the vision. And most of these MNCs, the visions are everywhere. The gate man probably can tell you what the vision is. The tea lady can tell you what the vision is. And they are excited about the vision. Their values are everywhere. Their core values. The core values, these are things that we can dive into some other time. So leaders are those who create a passionate and exciting vision of the future. They can align people's minds and efforts to the future. And most importantly, they can align their behaviors to the future. So I will also talk about structure. Without structure, you will be floppy and you will have no form. Your structure has a strong impact on your succession. If you do not have structure, what are you going to hand over to your successor? Structure is very important when you talk about running your law firm as a business. Of course, processes, SOPs, these are things we've talked about, but let me talk about culture. Culture is what? It is the environment that surrounds you at work all the time. Culture is the collective behavior of your team when you are not watching. Culture is just who you are without even pretending. So what is, if your team is entrepreneurial, they will be entrepreneurial even without you looking at them. So
1 minute. 1 minute.
1 minute. The defining characteristics of culture is on business owners. So we talk about IT, we talk about culture. Culture is difficult to define, much less to change. Data is important, management is important, the supply side, what do you have in terms of supply? Supply meaning your competencies, both legal and business competencies. What is the demand side? What is your value proposition? How are you differentiating from everyone? What is the selling price? So business competencies, market segmentation, new practice areas, I've talked about that, billing. Define what billing efficiently means for your law firm. Train people all the time concerning billing. Do not assume they know. If you have a billing software, if time management is good for you, is part of your billing process, training. And a billing process.
We have to cut it short.
No problem. A billing process, let me end by saying, cannot work well if partners are not fully involved in it. Okay, I will stop here.
Thank you for that, Joy. Apologies for having to jump in, but moderator is the bad guy. We have the Facebook link in the chat box. So please, if you would like to share it with anybody that would like to join, do so. It appears we've reached our maximum for this Zoom link. Maybe some feedback is we need to expand the number of attendees that can attend for ESQ. Okay, so moving along, Joy, if I may, before we hand over to Baba, we had a question, a few questions, but one directed at you. When you say partners giving up control, what do you mean? Is it control of the management of the firm generally, or control in making decisions ultimately, or both? Could we have a quick answer to that so we can switch over to Baba?
Micromanagement. I'm talking about micromanaging.
Okay.
And having no set roles, basically. We will always need the vision of partners, absolutely. But where your competencies are not strong, look for someone that has that strong competence, and not only give responsibility to that person, but absolute authority and training while you remain there, of course.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. I want to thank Joy for her presentation. She's gotten things started off rather spicily. I think I might have some things I would want to debate with her on, but you didn't come to hear me. You came to hear more important people like Baba Alokolaro. He's the managing partner of TNP, also known as the New Practice, although I don't know if you're still the New Practice because, you're now competing with the best of them. Can we hear your thoughts basically on running, and just by way of background as well, for some of you who do not know, Babashola worked in a traditional firm, went in-house to the state government where he was general counsel to the governor as of that time. Then he and his partners started the New Practice as it was then. Now, for me, just by way of context and to frame it as well, Baba and I were in law school together, and it was very interesting and I think important for the ecosystem that people our age not only said they wanted to set up a firm, because many people did, but I remember even when he started, Babashola said, I want to do it the right way and corporatize it. And here we are almost 20 years later, and he's done it pretty well. So Babashola, tell us, what are your thoughts on running a law firm as a business?
Thank you, Dio. Joy, that was great. I really loved your slides. I've been put in between two people in management roles who are non-lawyers. So I'm here to speak on behalf of those egocentric, proud peacocks that think they're everything and a bowl of rice. Joy, I apologize on their behalf. I can see the way Dio cut you short. They're so rule-based. If it's 25 minutes, it's 25 minutes and not 1 second longer. And we are all guilty of that. I'm going to be a little bit controversial, okay? And I'm going to speak from a different perspective, and I'm going to speak as a lawyer, because unfortunately, or unlike Joy and Kemi, I am the only one who knows what it means to be a lawyer. You know, in the beginning, Joy and Kemi, there was law, and the law was with God, and God was the law. What can be so attracting? What can attract an individual so much more than wanting to be a minister in the temple of justice, as Joy described it? Law as a business, is that an oxymoron? A lot of lawyers may ask you that question. There was a conversation by a father and son once, two lawyers. The father, one of the most highly respected lawyers in the history of this country. as he'd established a very successful and profitable firm, had requested one of his sons, or suggested or advised one of his sons, to start to specialize in the field of corporate commercial law. And this particular son wasn't very happy with the suggestion made by the father. In his own opinion, what his father had suggested was to, how will I call it? His exact words was that his father no longer wanted him to be a lawyer. He didn't see that corporate commercial practice, which personalities like Dio and I work in, as true law. He saw it as what non-lawyers did. Why am I going into this? I think it's very important for us to understand the personality type of lawyers. Even from school, when you go from way background, from secondary school, they divided you, I don't know about now, into classes of science, social sciences, and arts. And anyone who had the intention of studying law was in the arts class. People like me, unfortunately, I was in a pure science class studying maths, geography, and whatnot, physics, chemistry, biology, and I had a father who intended that his son become a doctor. So these personality types were stuck in a class where they were all arty, they studied literature and history and so on and so forth. And really, you created a bunch of creatives. And if you know anything about creatives, they have massive egos, they're arty, they're peacocks, they're proud, they're stubborn, they're resolute, they're resolved. They're usually inflexible. If it's A, it's A. If it's B, it's B. I'm not going to move in direction. And they're also very competitive. And they see value in everything that they do. So you ask the question, why did most people become lawyers? Was it for wealth? I'll tell you, Joy, you had great statistics, but I'm not sure you had the statistics of why most of us became lawyers. 9 times out of 10, I don't think it was for wealth. We don't have that many examples of wealthy lawyers, by the way, globally. If you count the top 10 richest people in the world, they're not lawyers. I argue with my client all the time. I say, if you want to be rich, you don't want to be a lawyer. It's not the way. You can't make money. We prove points. You want to be successful. You want to, Guy and I are working on a transaction. I want to beat him. That's my goal. I forget at the end of the day that, billable hours. Joy, that's where you come in. Kemi, that's where you come in. And you tell us, stop wasting time, because the amount of time you're spending arguing with Dio, nobody's paying for it. Or the amount of time you're spending trying to beat Dio. And so you see, also some of us wanted to change society. And forgetting that, at the end of the day, what are we in here for? Some of us are in here for bread and butter, sustenance. Some of us have seen things that made us decide that, it goes beyond sustenance. We want to create something that outlives us. And in that creativity spirit, we don't really see the business of it. If you look at the legends in the profession, you mentioned Wachtel. Martin Lipton is a legend in the world as a lawyer, because I'm not sure if he's still practicing, but a few years ago, I was reading a case study, and Martin was still in the office. Chief Rotimi Williams is probably the best legal brain that was ever created in the history of this country. But when we think of them, we don't think of them as wealthy people. We think of them as extremely intelligent people. Gani Fawemi was another fantastic, phenomenal lawyer in this country. When people think of Gani, they don't think of Gani and how wealthy he was. They thought of Gani as being a social justice promoter. We're also in the vintage business. So in business, you could turn over your business, if it's in commodities or services, in 2, 3, 4, 5 years of active business. You could get investments from third parties. Unfortunately for us, regulation bars us from doing that. And until those regulations are lifted, where our businesses will be stifled. As much as Joy, you can see the potential of what we can do with this business, we have a bunch of egocentric peacocks, proud as hell, that say, no, 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 I don't want Kemi's money. She's not a lawyer. She's not one of us. You know, what do we describe ourselves as again? We are learned gentlemen, even referring to lady judges as my lord, sir, in 2021. So we have our own issues. And until we're able to get rid of those issues, we will not specifically see this line of industry as a business and a profitable one at that. Don't forget, we hate numbers. Have you ever seen a businessman that hates numbers? He has his calculator out. If he cannot add it up, he gets out his calculator. If he can't use Excel, he'll use his calculator. Ask the lawyer. He doesn't want to know. The moment the digits get in, it's like, talk to the finance guys, talk to the financial advisors. And they've actually taken up a lot of work from us in M&A space, in the capital market space, because when it comes to the black and white of the numbers, we shy away from it. Meanwhile, when Kemi sees numbers, she's just interpreting it like, you know, she's writing a sentence or she's writing a paragraph. So, is law a business? Yes, it is. A huge one with phenomenal potential. Are we practicing it as a business? Well, we're beginning to realize that, which is why the role of the practice administrator, the chief operating officer, and so on and so forth have been created to help guide us in that direction, to see profit, to see liability, to see profit per partner, for instance, to see areas where revenue would rise, areas of specialty where you need to balance things up, whether it is litigation at this point in time, this resolution is what's bringing in money. It's also hard for us, as we're the ones practicing the law, to distill exactly where the money is coming from. But I think some of us have been intelligent enough to be able to draw the expertise of experts like yourselves to say, give us the necessary support. I know we butt heads a lot of the time where lawyers don't particularly, and it happens with most professional services. They don't see the non-core professional service providers as belonging to their class. It's almost like, you know, we're second-class citizens in the same business. And we need to start to appreciate the immense value that you bring to the table, which in essence will help convert the business that we do into more profitability. Succession planning, yes, you spoke about, you know, traditionally law firms started with families. And some of us worked with family-oriented firms, moved on to firms that had more of a corporate culture and developed and created a culture. And the future, if you ask me, in realizing this business is that the potential for growth is not so many law firms in the market, but several law firms that have the necessary expertise, the qualities, and service provisions that will deliver greatest value to the client. So in essence, we're going to get into a consolidation play. Maybe this is a call to Dio and his partners to say, you know what, write a number, I'm here, I'm ready. I've heard that offer made once or twice in the recent past by bigger law firms than we are. And perhaps maybe for cultural issues or the other, we couldn't accept the offers. And I've also had similar offers from firms of the same size. And those conversations are ongoing. But for me to compete effectively and efficiently with the likes of Templars, Acres, B&I mean, look at B&I's office space and you tell me that's not a business. Except, I mean, just look at that building. You don't put up something like that and you want to be doing pro bono work and running a charity. Yes, you do pro bono work, you do CSR, you do charitable work because you need to give back to society. But at the end of the day, you need to understand the bottom line is to, one, make profit, two, to generate revenue, and three, perhaps to give back. In a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, law truly is a business. It's serious business. We as lawyers, if you haven't established your law firm yet, it's important for you to have a plan. It's important to ensure that you have alignment to the people that you're going into bed with and you're establishing a business with. It's important that you have follow through with that plan. It's important that you train your people. It's important that you retool and train yourself. It's important that you check the plan over specific periods of time. It's important that you look after your client's interests. It's extremely important that you look across the fence to see what your competitors are doing. Your competitors are not just lawyers. Your competitors are the big four. Your competitors are the one-man briefcase office. Your competitors are accountants. And largely, you will find that a lot of the things that we do have become commoditized. So if we don't begin to go the extra mile for the client, for me, the future of legal practice goes beyond just practicing law. You need to bring on a few new skill sets. Once upon a time, Kusami was just an oil and gas lawyer. He does a few more things now beyond oil and gas. So you also need to be more flexible in your approach. The fact that you're a litigator today, I mean, I have a good friend, Olumide, I can't pronounce Olumide's Ondo surname now, he's a BNI. He was a litigator at Alex. He's a corporate commercial lawyer today. So you need to be able to adapt, because the Nigerian marketplace, in fact, the global marketplace, we've had a pandemic for the last year and 3 months. And if you're not able to adapt to the marketplace and start looking at new realities of business lines where you can start to generate income, business will stifle and your business will die. And whether you're a lawyer in a wig and gown and you're just wearing a suit and going to work, there will be no business, there will be no work, there will be no pride, there will be no arrogance, there will be no peacock, your stubbornness will be for nothing. And yes, you have a qualification, LLB, BL, LLM, what have you, but that will be it. Ladies and gentlemen, those are my 2 pennies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Baba. You've given some things to think about. I would ask a question before we move on. I don't want to ask too many questions, but there was a question, bear with me, let me read it out as it was asked, because you said this. And actually it came while Joy was speaking. You've answered it. The anonymous attendee said, it's not time for law firms in Nigeria to consider mergers in order to remain competitive in the African markets, which goes towards your point. You said it, but maybe a couple more words directed as an answer to that question.
So there have been mergers. There have been some consolidation play. There was the Alex play a few years ago, even though that was a new creation, but a merger of sorts. There was an acquisition by UUBO of Abraham & Co. Abraham & Co. very recently. And there's also going to be further consolidation with global practices. I mean, UUBO, again, I use UUBO as an example, signed a collaboration agreement with, and I've forgotten now. I mean, we have a collaboration agreement with Anderson's, with Bowman, precisely. We have a collaboration agreement with Anderson, and so on and so forth. So, as I said whilst I was speaking earlier, perhaps, you know, Templars and TMP could be speaking about some measure of consolidation. They'll be acquiring me. I'm the small fish, they're the big fish. Maybe it's ACAS, maybe it's B&I, they're not too far away from me. Maybe it's B&I and A&O. I mean, look at the play between A&I and A&O and B&I. There may be nothing left for the rest of us, you know, on the table. At the same time, it could be a complete disaster. So whilst it may be time to start considering consolidation, consolidation can only arise from certain market dynamics. It's the market that would determine, and also the cultural alignment of the parties. I hope that, you know, has answered the question too.
You have, thank you. Thank you very much, Baba. We've got a few questions. I think things are, we would want an interactiveness later on, but before we do, let's hear from Kemi Ajayi. She's CEO at BNI, one of the largest firms in Nigeria. She's certainly able to give us some thoughts and context of running it. And I saw a question that Kemi, somebody had asked, does the COO have to be a lawyer? I'll leave you to answer that question. And please give us your thoughts on running one of the largest law firms in Nigeria as a business.
Good morning again, everyone. And thank you, MyESQL, for this session. Thank you, Baba and Joy. You've given me a very hard task, speaking after both of you. You know, you've said everything. So yeah, let me answer that question of if a CEO has to be a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm an accountant by training and now lawyer by association. A lot of people actually confuse me to be a lawyer, but I'm an accountant. So CEO doesn't have to be a lawyer, provided you have, you could be a lawyer if you have the competencies required for that role. Okay, So like I said, Joy and Baba said a lot about running your law firm as a business. And I'll look at it from the point of, so what next? What do I do as a firm from this point on? One of the things I realized early in the days was that lawyers are very good at providing solutions for clients. But when it comes to our businesses, basic things as partnership agreement, we don't draw it up. Basic things as having a strategy for our firms, we don't have that. So the first step for me, if you're now thinking of, okay, where do I go from here, is sit down and look at what's my long-term plan. Baba had said that a lot of lawyers, and which is what I realized, that they create it out of passion. The founders don't really make money from this. But lately, what you see is it's now going beyond the founders because there is an economic impact. We are building an institution which has to be sustainable. There is the chunk of those services being part of the global economy. So it goes beyond the passion, which is why you now need professional business support professionals to help you drive your vision. Okay, Joy had alluded to the ownership and control, putting the right person and right resources at different roles. And I would say the first question is, where are we now? Our internal environment, does it allow us to remain sustainable in the long run? I'm believing that the vision of most of the law firms is to outlive the founding partners and leave a legacy. So currently, the way we are structured as a firm, does it allow us to achieve that objective? The way the economy is the economy strong enough is there enough market for all of us? It's something that we need to look at. I believe there is enough market for all of us. If we have talked about mergers, we talked about building competencies, even in our law firms, to be able to, to drive what is required in the economy. A lot of the international law firms, based on the statistics that Joy gave us earlier, it's amazing that a lot of them even take out some of this fees out of our seemingly small market. So what are we doing in that regard? So it's something to think about in our strategies. Also, we look at how do we get to where we want to get to in terms of, do I have the resources? The resources we need the money, and it's a conundrum because you need to do good work and earn those fees from clients, retain your people, train your people. So it's a cycle. So do we have the right human resources to achieve, to get to where we want to go to? Currently, we all agree that there's a serious war going on for talent. So it takes a lot to retain what you have, the talents you have, and also build on the competencies of those talents to be able to remain sustainable in the sector. There's also the client, the war for clients as well. It's a red ocean. How are we retaining our clients? What are the differentiators for my law firm that ensure that my client is not looking at Dio, even if Dio offers a lower fee for that particular work. So it's important that we all come to the partners, and I'll say that carefully, not only the partners. What we do in BNI is, when we have strategy session, everybody is allowed to be a part of, coming to that strategy that would drive us for a particular period of time. Because I believe that there are lots of, like Baba said, lawyers are creatives. So you never can tell where those ideas will come from. So one of the ages where, it's the big elephant in the room and everybody keeps quiet. So everybody has a role to play in coming up with the strategy for the firm. So, and I'll tie it all together that your business processes are very important. It ties up your people perspective, your client perspective, and then you're making money. What are the processes that tie all of this together? Joy had talked about the planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. There are different people that do different things. If you issue that great opinion, you write that great opinion, you send an email, and the email doesn't get to the client, in the time that the email should get to the client, then, the client is definitely not happy. That's the place of IT. So gone are the days where, the IT man is just is an IT intern. You need to, the way banks focus clearly and are intentional about their IT infrastructure, law firms are now at that point where you need to focus clearly on your IT infrastructure. There's also the thin line between, marketing and business development and advertising. Lawyers don't advertise, but, we see a lot of things going on out there. So you can't remain in that cocoon, because the world is a global village. People just do a search, and it is what keeps coming up that they would go to. So all of this impacts, your bottom line. And like I said, you need the bottom line to put in place all of this infrastructure, to pay your staff, and to keep your clients coming back to you. So it's a whole strategy session to run the law firm as a business. But the first step I would say is take a step back and look at where you are and where you intend to go to as a firm. And then you start putting the right pegs in the right holes as a firm. It's not easy, it's difficult, but with determination, baby steps, things get better. And like I said, with determinations and clear strategy and clear roadmap, you can get there. And like I said, having a vision is very clear. One of the things that I realized is, I don't know if it's a law firm thing, you go to law firm's website and you don't see their vision, because I really want to know what Baba is doing in his firm so that I can know how to, take a bit of the pie from him. But some law firms, you go there, you don't see their vision. And that tells me as a client, what's the long-term plan of this firm? So there are little things that the multinationals would ordinarily splash there. We need to rethink the way we practice law. It's moved beyond the point of passion. I think we all agree on that point, to a point of business, and it needs to be effectively and efficiently run as a business, leveraging on the different competencies of different professionals and recognizing what each person brings to the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you very much, Kemi, for your presentation. It is very much appreciated, but I'm going to hold you on. I have a question from Biodun Oyeledun at Detail. He said, can law firms get to the stage where investors, non-lawyers come in, or even having an IPO? Kemi first, then I would like Joy and Baba's thoughts on that question.
Internationally, it's done, but in Nigeria, there are restrictions, based on the Legal Practitioners Act. For us to move from where we currently are now, I think it will be a right step going in that direction, opening up the law firm to investors that are non-lawyers. But I think we're still dealing with cultural issues in Nigeria. We've talked about ego. We've talked about typically a Nigerian wants to own, it's my thing. So I think it's one of the limiting factors that we have. I think it's one of the things also impeding, large mergers. I've been hearing this conversation lately about the restrictions of the Legal Practitioners Act. I think the big boys in the room need to revisit this. Because it takes us steps closer in seeing the profits and seeing the rewards that can be earned from a law practice.
Thank you. Baba, IPO as opposed to acquisition?
Did you just change the structure? It was supposed to have been Joy and Demi, but I'm happy to go.
I'm sorry. I'm getting old. I forgot.
That you are. So if you want me to go next, I'm happy to.
Please go. Yes, please go. Apologies, Joy.
So I'm going to share a secret with everybody. The first business plan for my firm had an IPO intention, had a capital raise intention from third parties outside lawyers. because it was the only way that we could get the measure of scale to compete with the biggest fishes in the room. If we started a new firm, having practiced law for 5-6 years, and we're competing with former employers, former prospective employers that had been in this vintage business for 25, 30 odd years, the only thing we could do to compete was, one, to raise money to get the kind of eggheads, the kind of experts that we needed to join us to help us in service delivery. Now, unfortunately, it was a plan. It was a dream. I won't call it a plan. That was a dream, because the plan would require it to be, you would need to be able to comply with existing regulation. Now, that dream, as much as we articulated it, and we're hoping that someday the regulation will change, Kemi, unfortunately, it's not the big boys that are going to change the regulation. It's actually the volume of small boys, and they would refuse to, because they don't want to see that. As far as they're concerned, we're ministers in the Temple of Justice. What's your business raising capital in an IPO? Why should you have non-learned men or non-learned friends being strange bedfellows with you in a law firm? The law firm, at the end of the day, is all about, law is about the interest of justice and the people and developing society. But until we're able to get out of that mindset, and until we're able to ramp up the numbers, if you look at our ecosystem, when I say our ecosystem, I see law firms such as yours, ACAS, Templars, UUBO and Co, and likes of smaller firms like TMP, Bloomfield, and what have you. We're a huge minority. So when you get to our association, our body, our professional association, and you get to the NBA and even attempt to propose resolutions like this, I'm not sure how successful you will get. But only time will tell, to be honest. Only time will tell. But we don't have the numbers yet. I know the numbers are growing. We're getting 6,000 odd graduates out of the law school every year. But then again, what is the comprehension level as to exactly what you're trying to achieve, when a Mac letter law has just been taught in law school that by regulation, you do not mix with non-lawyers? The man has been looking to, we haven't been able to get rid of the wig and gown in court to get to IPO. Amen.
Joy, your thoughts?
My short answer is yes. If the question is it possible? I would say yes, it is possible, but whether we have the will to, well, I'm just wondering the catalyst. I think last year I was actually pondering this and wondering, I would refer us to probably take some time to read the Clementi reports. Because if we say we mirror the UK system, they have moved. And I guess this conversation is what is needed, to cause a trigger. Or maybe I need to go to China and get COVID-19 or COVID-22. We just need something to be the catalyst for this change. Because we can't keep talking about funding problem. We can't keep talking about the same old things, And I mean, just to mention, in 2019, Google entered the market. Google IP Accelerator, and Google is a disruptor. So we do need to look for that catalyst that would cause the change.
Thank you, Joy. I have a question from Ilyas Kazim. He said, thank you very much for your presentations. Each time when we talk about statistics, we see foreign figures, which are inspiring. What are the challenges in having some general information for statistics about Nigerian law firms? What can we do to have domestic statistics to inspire startups and young associates? I mean, if I may, and I'll see if anyone differs, it's the gathering of that information, and are we willing to share it? I remember a few years back, we started doing the salary scale survey. Those the older amongst us remember there was a bit of skepticism at first in putting those numbers out there, because then you're beginning to be competitive. But it did work, because there was a time at least, and it was long ago, there was a time that Templars was deemed one of the highest paying firms. Still is, but we were undoubtedly. But then now BNI and all the rest start paying more, and we're no longer, the hot topic anymore. So these are the kind of things, is the sharing of the statistics, in my opinion, of going towards Joy's point, profit per partner, turnover. What is each practice group doing? Are law firms doing that internally? Talk less of wanting to share that. But I'll give you a practical example, which I think is helpful. 2020 partners meeting, when we're doing our review, we're doing a section by section review of practice groups. And my managing partner, who, again, apologies, you get to have me. I would have preferred you had him. He says, disputes, you guys only made this much. Do you know Gio made this much? And everybody doubted him. And he said, hold on. He called Gio. He said, Gio, you're on speakerphone with the rest of my partners. What did you guys do in your disputes? Gio, 2 seconds, he gave an amount. And everybody was quiet. That kind of cooperation, that kind of sharing, without trying to hoard it, that goes towards the statistics. Another thing that I would like to point before I turn it over, because you all didn't sign in to hear me, but I thought it was an interesting thing, is pricing. We have this race to the bottom that is going on in Nigeria law firms now, and we're not going to survive it if we don't put a stop to it. To your point, if somebody comes to me saying, how much are you going to do this? And I say $100, and they go to each of the panelist firm and everybody says 80, 90, 70, then somebody says 20 just to capture it. Yes, you've got that deal, but then you're never going above 20. Then I'll hear you did 20, then I'm going to go for 19. Then it goes back to the important point we're making. We're trying to run it as a business. So statistics, I think, is the problem. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on that. I see everybody nodded. Are you all agreeing with me? Should we go to the next question? Okay, let me go to the next question. Somebody has asked, Adeyemi Owade, he said, what is the most effective way to bill clients? And can we get samples, format of such bills and invoicing? Well, I think the first question might be easier, but let me throw it to the accountant, Kemi. What's the most efficient way? Sorry, yeah.
Most efficient way. So a lot of what goes into your billing is what's your overhead cost, what's your cost for doing that work, and then what is the market saying about that service. So the market determines, the first thing that determines is what is your cost. You need to make your cost and make some profit. Okay, that's number one. Then number two, how does the market typically price that kind of service? So it could be your pricing, your billing for a particular matter could be, it also depends on your relationship with the client. There are some clients that, based on relationship over time, knowing your expertise, you can name your price. You know they will not go to any other firm. Okay, so you need to, all of those things come into what you bill. There is a fixed billing, you agree a lump sum figure, and to help your cash flow, you stagger the payments, or there are the fees that's based on success rates. So all of that falls into your billing. And if you're going to wait for your fees at the end of the transaction, there should be a premium, again, if the market allows that, because there's competition. Your clients can easily go to someone that's probably trying to build a profile in that particular practice area. So what comes into your billing is, what's your cost? What's the profit you're making on this? How does the market price this service? What is the nature of this client? There are some clients that if you bill them too low, they would actually think, do you really know what you're doing? So you need to factor in all of that and be true to yourself that this is the cost. But if I have to go low on my price, on my billing, I'm doing it for XYZ reason. And all of that also comes into running your firm as a business. I hope I've answered that question.
I think you have. Let me hear Baba's point of view before we go to the next question from a lawyer, managing partner's point of view. How do you price?
I think fee flexibility is critical, particularly when you're trying to grow a business. Beyond trying to grow a business, just to sustain a business, you need to be fee flexible. Unless the market conditions are such that everything is flourishing and you can get away with charging super premiums for, not the greatest level of service or not the greatest volume of service. So what I generally advise clients is, in fact, it's real, is that we're fee flexible, and giving the client the flexibility of terms of payment, mode of payment, and whether you want to do lump sum, you want to do hourly, you want capped fees, and then there are milestones where I need to advise and guide you that, look, this amount of work I've done, perhaps what you've paid me, you need to top up, and and so on and so forth. So flexibility, I would say, is key.
Thank you, Baba. We've got a few questions. If I could summarize what I think is the answer. You've got your fixed, you've got your hourly, you've got milestone payments, you could have a fee cap. One thing we've also considered lately in our firm is an abort fee, right? So the client thinks they're going to have a transaction. They very much appreciate that they did not get to where they were going. And we'll say, well, we agreed $100, but you either put a bid in that wasn't successful or your financing didn't come through, even though we really did more than $100 work and we discounted it to 100. For a relationship's sake, you might want to consider that. One thing to point out that I'm always pointing out to my associates, both junior and senior, is the Nigerian market, at least to my knowledge, and I would welcome any kind of different views. Nigerian market doesn't sustain hourly yet. I don't know if it will. So when I see proposals going out saying, oh, we're charging a fixed fee, because Baba made an important point, you need to make your assumption to allow for a price reopener, because that 3-month deal could take 12 months. And if you've locked in for that same $100, you're going to get burnt. You're not sustainable. So these are all the things that need to be considered. But we've got a few more questions. Joy. And I think, Joy, this is especially pertinent since your presentation. Emmanuel Inyanda asked, looking at the market globally and locally, what strategies would you recommend for billing process that works well for the firm's revenue? It's an offshoot of the earlier question, but still different. Joy, your thoughts? I think you're on mute, Joy.
Yes. I'm trying to look at what the distinction is really between this question and what we've just answered.
There might not be. If you don't think so, that's fair. I just wanted to make sure that
whether globally or locally, I mean, you have to have your eyes both there and here. And you need to look
globally or locally. I think respectfully, we may have addressed it, so we can move on. But I'll still pose the next one to you from Stanley Ambi.
Okay.
How do we take the peculiarities of practice in non-commercial cities of Nigeria, where law practice is largely limited to settlement of disputes around land and criminal litigation? How will your proposition in terms of scaling of the practice be achieved in those climes? So the non-commercial cities, take out Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Abuja. How are you going to scale up your business? Joy, any thoughts?
Oh, I think that there are many ways of scaling up your business. I just remembered a very interesting story, actually, of a lawyer that was posted to some remote area in came up with an amazing hit, and see that there is a bit of challenge with my internet. One thing we learned, if anything at all, with this entire COVID situation is that challenge and opportunity are one and the same. So not being in a commercial city does not mean that you cannot be really successful. You do not need to do a transaction to be a successful lawyer. So that young lawyer actually came up with a practice area in that Northern. I think they had some issue with, I'm not sure if it's the water or if it was a particular illness, but he came up with a practice area that was so novel, and he thrived amazingly in that area. He ended up not even coming back to commercial cities. He settled right there and did very well. So I do not want lawyers that are outside of the big cities to imagine that there are very limited opportunities. I think that we should just be very creative, we should just be very innovative, and there will be areas that you can offer solutions. Lawyers are solution providers and are creative. So
thank you very much, Joy. We have a two-tier question from Muyiwa Olusa. And I'll pose it to Kemi. How can we have a near uniform billing system, especially in drafting of commercial and deed of assignments and tenancy? He said we have a situation where clients are willing to pay an estate agent a higher fee than a lawyer. Any thoughts on that? Being that you're an accountant, getting paid more than some lawyers, not to put you on the spot.
I think that the way the law firms are structured, because I look at estate agencies as well. They have a seemingly fixed fee for a fixed percentage for tenancy agreements, but there's always variation. So and it goes back to the questions, to the answers on billing. It gets to a point where your expertise and your experience would help you to name your price, and the client stays with you. And I guess you build that over time. Do I see that happening, that there will be a structure where there will be a fixed fee that's widely agreed and accepted in Nigeria for lawyers? I doubt it. But would there be a point where different law firms at different stages will come together to agree that our billing for X services should be within this range? I think we will get there at some point. After we run ourselves, hopefully we don't run ourselves to the ground before we get to that point where we agree range of prices depending on the size of the law firm, because all of the size also comes into play when you're naming your price. Do I see that happening in the short run? Maybe not, but would it happen? I believe it will happen, that we'll get to a point where I name my price within this range and the client stays with me. And if the client goes to another firm of my size, and competencies, they probably will not get anything different. That's my view.
Thank you for that. Baba, this question is for you. And after you take it, I'll also take it as well, because I think there are some similarities. Anonymous attendee has said, I have heard a lot about succession planning. I've also seen some commercial firms like BNI move from founding partner manager to non-founding partner manager. So that'll be from Aswe to Ken, for example. I think they just misspelled. How important are these developments for the Nigerian legal market? Do these founding partners really go away, or are all these for branding purposes? Baba? Kemi, you can see why I left you out of that one.
So I can't tell you factually if they go away, because I'm not aware of those facts specifically. But what I am aware of, and we had this conversation when we had a dry run to this call, is that we have had succession planning in a series of law firms across Lagos specifically that I have seen. I once was a lawyer at Aluko Anibode, and when I joined Aluko Anibode, it had two founding partners, Bankole Aluko and Gbenga Anibode at that point in time. Kufo Joseku joined them from Citibank. Prof joined them from Olisa Agbakoba, and then Ms. Doseku and Ronke Ido, now Ronke Shokefu. they moved from a position where Gbenga Ebode was managing partner. He became chairman, board of partners, and Mrs. Doseku became their managing partner. As of date, they've done truly musical chairs. He's off council. She's chairman, board of partners, and a very good friend of mine is now the managing partner, and he's of a completely different generation. In fact, they skipped a whole generation and moved on. If that is not succession planning, then that's just pure magic. Because if you call it, even if you call it branding and you say, and it's just PR, that's amazing PR for that generation of partners or senior associates to see that there's room at the top. Even if it's just for, if you say it's just for the optics, UBO has done something similar. Dr. Bello Osage, I believe, she's not 70 yet. She's very close to, she's not 70 yet. She's close to 70. Herself and Senator Udo Udoma are now off council. And then Danagbo, whose name is not on the plate. And I mean, that's unique in itself. You find, not many firms back then who didn't take on a partner and put their name on the plate. He's also stepped down. And Aneka Upana is now managing partner. And you would see that even from that happening with what you call the magic circle firms of Lagos already tells us something. If we don't follow that model, then we must be able to develop a more competitive or a better model that shows our team players that one, there's room at the top, that we are planning for sustenance, we're planning for succession, and that the business plans to be here beyond the people that actually founded it.
Thank you, Baba. Now, why I put that question to you, apart from your insight from a number of firms, TNP in 20 years, do you see that evolution coming as well? Stepping into founder, partner, chairman role? Is there space for your associates to become managing partner? Yes, I'm putting you on the spot.
Babajimi and I intend to come back to wherever building the offices, if at all we're in any physical buildings, just to draw checks. I just want to get royalty checks and come in there. I say to my people all the time, I want to come in shorts, Bermuda shorts and a t-shirt and say, where's my check?
Thank you. A quick answer to that question. I think you actually are seeing this generational. Babashola answered it, so I don't have much to say in that. I think it will be slightly cynical to say it's just for PR purposes, but I think you also have to recognize that even as of counsel, Gio is one of the most successful lawyers in Nigeria, probably of all time. So is there a doubt that sometimes Reginald will go to him for guidance, or Mrs. Doss? You would be shooting yourself in the foot as a managing partner, not going to those senior partners. Do you think Kenetim doesn't talk to Aswe? Still, it will still happen, no matter, even if he's doing every single thing, because you can't take away from that experience. So I think there needs to be a balance as well, from recognizing there needs to be succession, but there's still the knowledge. All of us, at least if we've left law school, we're all adults. But if we're lucky enough to have our parents or older relatives, we do go to them for advice, not every day, but some of the time, right? So let's go to the next question from Anonymous, and I think this is an interesting one. They said, what do you consider to be the best form of partnership in terms of structure? Can I ask Joy, then I ask Kemi, then Baba? Could we have quick, less than 1 minute answers? I know it's a heavy question, but just recognizing time, but I think we will go on as long as people are interested. But Joy, what do you think is the best form of partnership in terms of structure? Then Kemi and Baba.
I would go for the practice management committee model. Ordinary, the structures I know, there's what is called, I think that LBS did some research a couple of years ago, and they looked at 3 or 4 structures. There's the strong managing partner model, there's the executive committee model, and then the committee of the whole model, and then the practice management committee model. So I will go for the practice management committee model, where you have practice management responsibility evenly spread.
Is she freezing just for me? Okay, so Joy frozen for everyone.
Done. Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay, now we can.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Did you hear what I said?
We lost
Oh,
you.
okay. I was talking about the practice. Oh, wow. Practice management committee model.
Okay.
Did you get that?
Yes, we did. We got that now.
Did you hear that?
Yes, we
Okay.
did. Yeah. Kemi, what are your thoughts?
Practice management committee.
Okay, thank you, Joy. And I'll speak to what we practice in BNI. BNI practices a partnership structure of full-based equity partnership. A lot of times, we do surveys, and then we realize that this model, a lot of other firms practice associate partnership model in addition to equity partnership model. So I'll say that the structure that you decide depends on what's the overall vision of the partnership of the founding partners. So there's a full-based equity partner model, which has its pros and cons because there is limited room at the top. So your next level of partners are looking up to come in. So you need to create room for that level of partnership. There's also the associate partnership model, which is not completely off the table. A lot of law firms in Nigeria have that. So partners with without equity, but they are partners of the firm. So they probably draw in profits and all of that. And each partner is assigned a role supported by business support professionals in being part of the overall strategy of the firm. So I would say that depending on your overall vision, you could decide everyone that's my partner is an equity full-based partner, or there's a divide, the associate partner, equity partner, or managing partner, which is different from the some law firms have managing associate. Yeah. That's equivalent to leading different practices or different clients' work or all of that. So it depends on your overall vision. But I would say equity partnership or associate partnership.
Thank you. Baba, thoughts on the best partnership model format?
It's not a once. It's pretty tricky to give you what you call the best partnership format. Structure format. The reason being that it will depend on a number of variables: the size of the firm, the areas of practice, what exactly the firm is doing. It's having an equity partnership model for big firms is slightly easier than having that for small firms. The reason being that you need to be careful that you're not in bed with strange bedfellows and that you don't create an alignment issue for yourselves in the future. So you may have a staggered partnership model where you have financial partners, you have equity partners, you also have limited partners and general partners. Our dream is to have a John Lewis partnership model. I don't know if anybody here knows about that, but every employee of John Lewis has an equity participation. And at the end of the year, where bonuses or profit is made and dividends are given, they actually get a measure of participation from that model. And I say it's a dream because we're not currently practicing it, but that's the ultimate objective, that, at the end of the day, if each of our co-travelers sees themselves as a partner in this business, then they are able to draw at the end of the day when, we deliver profits.
Thank you, Baba. I'm going to take the next question and we'll keep going. I had a couple of thoughts that this question has brought about that I'll throw open, and then I'll take the question. In the point of running a law firm as a business, because we're service providers, I think one key thing, apart from the administrative infrastructure part of running the business, is getting the business as well, which leads us to our next question, because I had a couple of thoughts regarding networking and referrals, client care, media coverage, so to speak, and then accountability. But let me go to the particular question from an anonymous attendee. Are there any tips for getting a foot in the door without outrightly soliciting work? how do you get a prospective client interested enough to send an RFP? Now, if you guys would allow me, I will kind of frame this from my personal experience. Then I'd want to throw it to Baba as well. We are a service business, and you're not allowed to solicit work, but you're allowed to create a presence. It is somewhat easier now to create a presence than it was when I started out law because of social media and the internet. I had a question I was going to ask, and it's interesting because when Kemi had mentioned business support professionals, you've got your COO, you've got BD, and then you've got partners in brackets. In my firm of Templars, I'm technically the head of business development. So when people see me, they're like, wait, Dio is an oil and gas lawyer. Why is he talking about this? Why is he talking about that? But because I represent the firm, I do not do tech work, but I've got tech clients. I give it to the tech experts. I do not do litigation, but I brought in a significant amount of litigation to our firm in 2020. We got 2 SANs. I think it's very key that running a law firm as a business, and I see a lot of law firms and lawyers do not understand this or imbibe it enough, is it is a business. And what are you selling? Expertise. How will people know you're an expert if you're not visible? If you're not putting out writing materials? It's boring, drudgerous work, right? But if you're not putting out thought leadership, if you're not writing, if you're not out there, then how are people going to know? There's a reason that, at least amongst a certain amount of people, I am fairly known and known with the firm because I make it my business to be out there singing the firm's name. The more people that can do that in the firm, that's how clients will notice this person and say, let's send them an RFP, right? And a prospective client can only send an RFP to a lawyer they've heard of. So the question to the anonymous attendee is, how and what are you doing to get yourself out there enough? And not in an untoward way, not in a way that breaches the rules of our professional practice. And, it's a chicken and egg thing. If you don't have the work, how do you do it? If you don't have the bandwidth, how do you put out a thought leadership piece? But without that, you're basically just waiting for time and chance. And that's not a sustainable business model. But anyway, Baba, you've created a very successful practice from scratch. How did you get your foot in the door working against the BNIs and ACASs? And how do you get a prospective client interested enough to send an RFP from anonymous attendee?
Anonymous must be a prayerful man or woman first. Because it's so tough, to be honest. But there's so many ways to develop business. I tell my people, one, you must be known for what you do. There's no reason for you to be as quiet as a church mouse in your immediate environment, whether it's the church, whether it's mosque, whether it's a bar, whether it's a group of friends. If they don't know what you're doing, then what's the value? I can't give you any work if I don't know you're an oil and gas lawyer. And I may be chasing a marginal field, and we shoot snooker, we play tennis every other day, and I don't know that's actually what you do. I could be looking to raise capital, and I don't know your firm. I don't even know you're a lawyer. So first, your visibility is critical. Secondly, don't forget that we're in a vintage business. And I remember a long time ago, one area of law I have never practiced in is oil and gas. Hand on heart, and I never intended to. I wasn't interested, and luckily my partner is. And I remember I met a prospective, and I saw this guy. We're talking to Koi Club, and I was telling him what I did, and I said, "Oh, do oil and gas law." And I said, "No, but I have you know what? I'm going to introduce you to one of the most intelligent oil and gas lawyers this country has ever produced. You may not have heard of him, but so I did the marketing there and then." Now, doing the marketing also, the substance is also required. I cannot say I'm introduced to one of the most intelligent oil and gas lawyers and the man's substance is just a B- or a B+. He must be a star in what I'm selling. So you need to develop and build capacity. You need to change things around a little. I was speaking with Babaji, my partner, this morning, and I said to him how I was looking at a term sheet late last night, and I liked certain things in that term sheet that made me want to remodel the term sheets that we have developed here. So you also need to be creative. so that, you know, the creativity that you also put in into your work, okay, into your work product is such that by the time your client sees it, one of the things we scream about at TNP is that we aspire to keep things simple. So I want the document to be idiot-proof and simple enough for anybody to read. A 2-year-old doesn't think I need a lawyer to interpret this. And I also want to be able to hold the client's hand from the beginning of the transaction all the way to the end and even beyond. So I'm selling a product. So there's a complete marketing strategy to it. From when I meet you to engaging you, it has to be experiential. And I mean, and we have 2 different strategies between myself and my other founding partner, the way we go about it. But as I said, you know, your visibility is key. It's a vintage business at the end of the day. Let's not forget that. It's very hard, except maybe you're working in new age law space like tech, which is new in itself, and regulation and law is playing catch up. So that's an area where if you want to sell, it's very easy to compete in the space. It's easier than if you say, for instance, you're doing M&A or you're doing oil and gas or capital markets. And relationship building. At the end of the day, it's all about relationship building, and you're meeting people, you're networking, you're selling what you do, the service that you provide. So, and you also must be personable. And I mean, not everyone can do it. It doesn't come naturally to everyone, Pastor Sash, it doesn't come naturally to everyone, but you can build up those skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Babashola. I tell my colleagues in the office, business development is a muscle. You've got to develop it. You've got to keep practicing to get it better. Sure, there are people that are more natural, quote unquote, but yeah, anyone can do it. Kemi, the next question is for you, anonymous attendee as well. We have a lot of anonymous questions here. What are your thoughts on lawyers receiving commission for the work they bring into the firm, Kemi?
That's a tricky one because it's my thoughts. If properly, it's a good thing, but needs to be carefully managed so that it doesn't overly promote individualism and cause rancor in the system. It's a good feeling that I brought in work and I get a commission for bringing in that work. But the leadership of the firm needs to check it to be sure that it doesn't turn out to be negative, doesn't turn out to be detrimental to the firm in the long run, because there's a tendency for people to start getting unfair, and at the end of the day, it affects the firm. If someone else in the firm is able to help me close a particular deal, and for commission constraints and issues, I don't bring it to the knowledge of that person, the firm loses at the end of the day. So my thoughts are, okay to give commissions, but it must be well managed, and whatever issues or challenges come up from time to time should be quickly nipped in the bud and not swept under the carpet. So that's my thought.
Thank you for that, Kemi. I'll answer that from our firm's point of view, and then I'll give the next question to Joy. In our firm, we operate a finder's fee model, whereby it encourages you to bring in work, but it's very fixed. If you generate work, not necessarily you're the one that does it, you get a fixed commission. It doesn't matter if someone else does it. It's for below equity partners. So you could be an entry-level associate. And I can give you a practical example. I got my first finder's fee in Templars in 2006. And it was what Babashola was saying, networking with someone, talking with them somewhere, brought in the client to the firm, and there are certain deductions that are made, but it's a fixed amount. And I didn't even work on it. I will tell you this, it did help. I think I'm naturally business development inclined, but it did give me that bit of ginger to keep on looking for work. Now, there was a time our managing partner had to change the model because, like Kemi was saying, everyone just started looking for the work and it became too unseemly, for lack of a better description. So there's that fine line of how and when and if you want to do it. It can work, it can push people, maybe it doesn't. But it leads us to the next question, which is for Joy. Anonymous again, they said, thank you for the wonderful and insightful webinar. Oh, also timekeeping thing, we've run over by 15 minutes. Our hard stop this at top of the hour. Thank you for the wonderful and insightful webinar. Please, I would like to ask, who is responsible for business development in law? That is, I think they meant, who is responsible for generating work? Joy, what are your thoughts on that?
I would say everyone in a law firm is.
Sorry, Joy. One second before you go. Sorry, 1 second. Baba Shola has to. I think I read this. Sorry, I've got too many screens open now. I think Baba has to jump out, and like I did mention, we have run out of time. But I just wanted to, on behalf. Okay, jump off in 10. Okay, got you. We'll wrap it up in 10. So, Joy, please go on.
Okay, I would say everybody. I mean, especially going by your definition, which I find very interesting, that business development is a muscle. So hit the gym. I mean, very early in my career, I learned that I can bring business in. And I mean, from my personal experience, I've seen that happen because I had partners that were pushing me, and if you can articulate, I don't want to leave it with the Fiennas because I represent a constituency, and I believe very strongly that if you understand what your firm sells, which you should, everybody should have that responsibility. It should be a vision that is sold to every person in the firm. That's my view.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Joy. Next question, and it is anonymous again. Baba Shola will jump off soon and we'll be wrapping up soon. So I think fortunately we have a couple more, but this will be the last question. The anonymous attendee said, in all that has been discussed today, what is the role of the millennials in the future success of the firm, and how should law firm leadership groom them? Baba Shola?
I love the question. The honest answer to that is it's gone beyond the millennials. It's Gen Z now. Because what you're finding is that the millennials are now in their mid-30s, if I'm correct. And if you're in your mid-30s, you probably practice law for maybe 7 to 10 years already. Now, the law firms need to look at how they can engage the next gen and keep them engaged. Now, once upon a time, we all used to say, and I'll say this on behalf of everybody on this desk, the millennials are doing my bloody head in. Now, the Gen Z are doing the millennials' head in, and they seem to have the headache. And if you're on Twitter, like I am, I mean, I was reading something recently where the two generations were going against each other, and it was quite a bit of fun. But the reality is, in terms of succession and the next generation of clients, because that's what you're also looking to cater for, this thing is cyclical and it's periodic. We moved from when I worked at Chief Rhodes Williams Chambers, and Chief would have been 90-something odd years today, to law firms that were next generation and the founders are edging towards 70, to firms like my firm where the founders are just slightly under 50. And if you look at the Nigerian economy, where is the next oil? It's coming from it's going to be a knowledge-based economy. It's going to be tech, it's going to be sports, it's going to be media, it's going to be entertainment. And who are the people producing the products from here? It's not the likes that may like rap as much as anything else, but I doubt you could sell an album. Well, you never know, these things happen. But so if you want to service these guys, the guys that are largely going to be connecting with them or engaging them are usually around their age group. But what you need to give them without diluting the substance is taking them through the minutiae of really what black letter law entails. Now that's more substance. Form largely is going to change. Things are getting more simplified. People don't have the attention span to read 200-page agreements, particularly in that sort of industry. So we need to keep our younger generation more engaged. Perhaps our office suites will also change. Maybe we're going to have ping pong tables in the office, have a bit more fun, have a bit more conducive environment, and also culture. Because for them, culture is very, very key. I think it was, I'm not sure whether it was Kemi or Joy that said it, that there's, what war did you call it? There's a talent war going on, you know? Everybody's looking for the talent. And in fact, the talents we are looking for are in the millennial generation. But beyond the millennial generation, who are going to groom the next gen, there's going to be a further, there's going to be more warfare between the big firms and the small firms just looking for the talents. Now, how do you retain the talent? How do you get the talent? It goes beyond, that's the top paying firm in the country. They go to the top paying firm in the country and they're happy for 5 minutes. 6 minutes later, they're out of there and they're just like, you know what, I just want to be happy. So we need to find how to engage these guys and keep them happy.
Thank you, Baba. Before we wrap up, I want to answer that question with a short bit of twofold example. I always use personal experience. I joined Templars as an associate, somewhat experienced associate. I made partner 4 years later. The managing partner said I called it Templars because I didn't want to attach to my name. A lot of people don't actually know my managing partner. They think another senior partner is the managing partner, which he's very fine with, right? But I'll tell you what he said to me one time. He said, I want young lawyers who will run this place when I'm done. That was in 2005. Do you know what he told me in 2020? He said, so Dai, you've been here so long. Yes, you went in-house, you're back, you're a senior partner here. He said, so who's the new Dio? He said, because I saw you. If you don't find a new you, then you failed. Forget that you're a successful lawyer. If you don't find someone who's going to continue the firm beyond your watch, see something like I've seen. So the short answer is we have to keep on looking. It's one thing to talk succession, is another thing to actively. And he said that I'm going to judge you over the next 5 to 10 years on who you can groom up. Not everyone will take that route, but let's see what options you are in identifying who is going to be the Gen X. On that note, we ran almost 30 minutes over. I want to say thank you very much to Kemi Ajayi, Joy Harrison, Abiola, Baba Olokalara, my law school buddy. I also want to thank ESQ for putting this together. This has been interesting. I didn't think it would last an hour. We've gone to 2. We may have gone longer. It's a good thing it's a Friday. Maybe you guys need to reach out to ESQ and tell them to do this again. If we can be lucky enough to get these people and the level and the cadre and the questions, I think we've got a good thing going on. I also want to say a very big thank you to our sponsors, Advoca, Alex, Bloomfield, and G. Elias & Co. Without you guys putting in here, we might not all be here. Lastly, Larry, and your team, well done. Just feedback for everyone. We need to expand it. You can see it was interesting. More people need to be able to attend in one platform. But I'm sure you've heard it, you've seen it. Lawyers, you get us going. Like Joy said and Kemi alluded to, we could keep talking forever. But I will say this, only because I'm not as smart as Kemi and my math is dodgy. That's one of the reasons I became a lawyer. So if your math is dodgy, become a lawyer, you might be as successful as Baba Shola, if nothing else. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Jayo Kusami. Thank you, our panel, Mr. Baba Shola Lupularo, Mrs. Joy Harrison Abiola, and Mrs. Kemi Ajayi. We're also very grateful to Mr. Agogo Apata, who has volunteered my very good friend Jayo Kusami to be here today.
Sacrifice.
We thank you all for being part of today's webinar. This is the first part of this series, and we're still going to be having another one on 19th of April on a similar topic, that is improving process management in your law firm. And we are going to be having lots of very interesting speakers for that panel as well, from Lexington consultants in the UK and other parts of the world. So we've heard from the big players in the market today. Let's hear also from the international partners who are looking at taking over our space, as Mr. Itomi and others will say. So, but thank you very much, everyone. Now, this is also, I want to introduce a training that we have. It's starting in July. And the training is going to be led by Mark Beasley, who is the CEO of Lawyers Leadership in the US. And the training is tagged I'll put up the flyer now. So the training is on transforming the business of law. Yeah, how you can transform your law business from where it is right now to the next level. And part of what we're going to be discussing during this particular webinar, issues of hiring, business development, marketing and business development in the new normal. We're also going to be looking at issues of process optimization. We're looking at office management, legal technology, law firm financing, hiring, leadership and management, working across cultures, and then design thinking. Design thinking. When you work into an international law firm in UK, from the reception to where you sit down, having your deliberations in a few minutes, everything you've discussed, they come with printed copies of everything that you've discussed. An agreement is ready within a few minutes. And the way clients are treated, all these I've seen in some of the leading Nigerian law firms as well, but we still need to see more. There is a thinking around it in terms of how clients are managed or the firm is managed. And these are some of the issues we're going to be looking at. We're going to have accountants, business managers who will be part of this training. It's a 6-month training starting on the 30th of July. It's targeted at managing partners in law firms, especially the litigation law firms. It's called Law Business Transformation Training. I will encourage everyone to be part of this training. Also on Monday, next week, we're starting our negotiation training, advanced negotiation skills for lawyers. We've sent the flyers out before now. I also encourage you all to be part of this training as well. Baba said that we need to expand the scope of the training. So Dayo Kusana said we need to expand the scope of the training, and I'm happy that Baba is here as well. We have proposals before you. We're waiting to hear back from you. Thank you so much. We thank you for assisting us to make today a very great webinar, and thank our sponsors, Bloomfield, GLIs and Co, Advocates, and ALEX. Thank you for making this possible every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Monday, 1 p.m., Wednesday, 1 p.m., and Friday, 11 a.m. On Monday, we're going to be looking at the rights of children in conflict areas. And I encourage you all to be part of this. Recently, the various banditry and crises rocking the country has been, women and children have been badly affected most of the time. Even though there are constitutional provisions for enforcing the rights, or the Constitution says the role of government, the primary role of government is to protect lives and properties. But then these sort of people are left vulnerable, and it seems like every day this thing continues, and they are becoming like economic tool that people are trading among themselves these days. So they kidnap and then ask for ransom, and then these children are dressed in fine clothes and brought back to the public, whereas monies are being paid to the bandits. Bandits are becoming richer, but the effect of this on the children and the women can last for a lifetime. So we're going to be having a seasoned panel of human rights activists, who Mr. Jiti Ogunye, Cordelia Eke, Monday Ubani, and others will be sharing with us what are the rights of this class of citizens also we'll also be going into class action. What is the trend, updates on class action, and how can lawyers support these vulnerable people to ensure that their rights are protected in Nigeria. Thank you all. It's been a very interesting 2 hours. See you again on Monday. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Auntie Kemi. Thank you, everyone.